It doesn't say the kingdom of heaven belongs to adults. It's interesting. It says it belongs to these kids. And so when we look at kids ministry, we look at student ministry, we think at Gateway Church that our kids and our students are the most important people here. And that might be like, but wait a minute. They're not the adults, right? They don't, it sounds bad, but they don't give, right? They don't serve. But we believe that they're the most important because when you think about it, they have, this is going to sound mean again, but they have the most potential, right? If we can reach all the kids that we have, we make the most impact for the most amount of time possible, theoretically. So that's why we pour into it. And so our commitment at Gateway Church is that we invest in children and students. So what we want you to see when you come to church to serve, even when you're just here and you see students that you work with or kids that you work with, you're investing in them. It's not just showing up and making sure, right, they don't get hurt. It's showing up and investing in them and pouring into them because that's what Jesus was willing to do. And it starts with this belief, and this is kind of an Orange idea. It's what's a God idea, but Orange repeats it over and over again. Every kid is made in the image of God. And we know that every person is made in the image of God, but we treat people differently when that's our framework compared to some other things where people have frustrated us, or they're annoying, or they've bugged us, right? When we think about they were made in the image of God, and that's where they get their value. That's a big part of how we want you to walk into doing your ministry with the kids. And this is why, this is a big piece. When you learn to treat kids like they're made in the image of God, it increases the kids' potential to see God. I want us to understand, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later, but when a kid comes to church, and you're their leader, and you're the one using the words God or Jesus or Bible or whatever, you're the representation of God and His love for them in that moment. And you think about even people that walk away from church, and they have this bad view of church, right? Like, my class was boring, or my teacher didn't care about me, or she was mean, or he was mean, or they didn't treat us well, or they did boring activities, whatever it was, right? It was because of that interaction that they probably had with a teacher sometime in Sunday school when they were a really little kid. I want to say you have to be the most popular person ever, right? But just be willing to understand that when they connect with God in this situation, they do that through you. And they're looking for a place where they belong. Gateway Kids should be a place where every kid has an adult that loves them and is excited to see them. We want them to know that you care about them, and we want you guys to be excited when you see them. We want you to be excited that they came to church, whether their parents drugged them or they were excited about it, right? We want you guys to be a smiling face for them when they get here, because we're glad they're here. And we trust you to show God to them as best you can while they're here. And so you're excited that they didn't shoot. I do this all the time. We have youth group on Saturday night. Saturday night, teenagers could be 1,000 different places. And I do my best to say when I see kids that are here on Saturday and chose to be here rather than going to the movies or going ice skating or going wherever they're going to do, I want to be excited that they're here. Because they chose, or their parents chose, right, for them to be here. But I get to be that person, and I want to be excited for them to be here. This is one, maybe you've never thought about this, but kids gravitate to the oldest person who takes them seriously. Maybe you think, like, in this moment, maybe you think of someone. If you're involved in church today, there was probably someone when you were younger than you are today, whatever that means, that took time to invest in you as a church leader, or as someone who knew Jesus and was a leader. And that person took you seriously. That person probably bought you lunch or dinner or something sometime. Maybe they invited you out somewhere. Maybe they showed up to a place where you weren't expecting them. And you might be here because you were influenced by them. They will flock to you if you take them seriously. If you show them that God loves them, they will flock to you. They will want to be around you. And it'll be awesome to see the relationships that you can build. This is an important one, and I always say this to our student ministry staff. Kids probably won't remember what you say, but they'll remember when you showed up. I've taught probably 1,000 times since I've worked here at Gateway. And if there was a student that was at every single one of them, and I gave them a quiz on everything I ever taught, they would fail miserably. But at the same time, they'll remember when I showed up and when I didn't. And so this is a tough one even for a pastor to say, when I could put all this work into a talk, and a kid would maybe never remember a word I said when I talked, but they might remember when I showed up at a soccer game. So sometimes we think about it, and we still need to craft our words well because they do stick. I do remember things I was taught, right? So do we. But I remember when they showed up. And they'll remember when you show up. And showing up does two things. First of all, showing up is not only functional, it's influential. What do I mean by that? When it's functional because, put yourself on the other side. Maybe you go visit a church, right, somewhere. If you came and showed up, you were going to drop your kid off in a classroom, and there was no one there 5 minutes before that it was supposed to start, you would not feel ready to leave your kid at that church. So what we're asking from you guys is to show up, and not only just show up on time, but show up early, so that when people are there, we're ready to receive them. When those kids are there, there's a smiling face who's ready to receive them. There's someone that's there ready to say, hey, let's experience Jesus today, whether it's Saturday night, Sunday morning. But it's also influential because those kids will remember that you were there. My son knows that Camden is in his class. He knows it. Because Camden was there. I don't know if he'll remember that when he's 5. Right? He'll probably forget. But he knows that. And that matters. And so consistency matters. Just by showing up, you make a difference. You make them feel safe. And you give them a place to belong. We always say you belong here, right? We say the same for kids. This is a big one, and this was something I heard the other day, and I wanted to share it with you guys. The current generation of kids is the first generation that does not need an adult to find information. If they're 15, 16, and under, they don't need a teacher to tell them now. They have the internet. They have it in their pocket. But they do need adults because they need us to help them interpret what they hear and what they get and what they receive. And so we're not always here just to give them the information, right? A kid will walk in, and they might ask a question about something that happened in the world. They could ask a question. They could walk in and say, why did this shooting happen? You're like, I didn't sign up for that question, right? That's a big one. They need us to help interpret it. Because they're not just going to learn about it because we tell them anymore. They're going to find it on their own, and they need us to help them figure it out. So this is a word that I'd like us to remember as we deal with kids all the time. It's the word empathy, and sympathy and empathy are two very different things. You can sympathize with someone that you have, and not have anything to do with them, right? You could see a post on Facebook of a friend, and their parent died maybe, and you feel something for them, you sympathize. You might even send them a note and say, hey, I'm praying for you. But you're not going to walk with them through that situation. Empathy engages with them and says, I'm here to walk with you through what you're going through. And even though we only get an hour a week with these kids, or an hour and a half, or whatever it is, we're saying we want to walk with you each week through what's going on. And so sometimes that means maybe we show up more than we usually plan on, right? Maybe we're just around and we're here, or maybe we say, well, I'm going to serve a few more times this month because I'm there every time slot that kid's there because I want to walk through this with them. So empathy is something where we engage with them. We don't just see them and sympathize. And why do we do that? Well, Hebrews tells us why. Hebrews 4:15 says, for we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. So he's able to sympathize, but not only did he sympathize, he empathized. He worked with us through that, and that was something, that was his goal. So that when we look at Jesus, we don't just see a God who's way up here somewhere. He came and understood exactly what we were going through. And that's what we want to do with the kids. We want to say we're here when things go bad, when things are tough, when things aren't as they should be. We know what homes are like. We know what family issues are. Well, how do we engage with them and help them walk through that? Empathy decides to do things we don't like in order to reach people who are not like us. Your whole role, right, in student ministry, in kids ministry, preschool ministry, nursery ministry, you're working with people who aren't like you. They're human, but they wear diapers, right? They throw tantrums. They can't drive. They can't feed themselves. They're totally different than us. But we work with them because we want to engage with them and share with them who Jesus is. We have to be willing to do that. We can't think about what we want or what we think should happen. We have to engage at the level of the child and do what's best for them as well. Here's a verses. I'm only going to talk for a couple more minutes because we're a little over. But the idea of being Sunday-minded versus Monday-minded. It's tough in church to think about more than Sunday. If you work in a church, if you've ever done that, it feels like Sunday is every 3 days. Like you get done one Sunday, you gear up for what you have to get done during the weekend, and all of a sudden it's Sunday again. Or here, it's almost Saturday again, right? And we think so much about Saturday. We want Saturday or Sunday to look good. We want it to flow right. We want it to do what we're supposed to do. We want this to happen. We want that to happen. We stop thinking about how this impacts the lives of our people on Monday. And that's where we want to engage. We want Sunday to go well. Yes, we want things to be great on Saturday and Sunday. But we also need to have the goal of impacting Monday. So the question I want to ask you is when you, and not to answer out loud, but just to think about is when you come to serve, are you Saturday or Sunday minded, or are you Monday minded? Are you reaching kids in a way that says, I'm working towards an application in your life on Monday? A Sunday mindset focuses on